Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Redmen TV and your latest episode of Transfer Insight. My name is Dan Clubb. I'm delighted to be joined by football writer for the Northern Echo, Dom Shaw. Dom, how are you, mate? You okay?
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, can't complain, but he cannot complain. Recovered after what was a very busy deadline day up your end.
Yeah, it was. It was deadline day, and then that unique quirk of a game on the night as well, and a pretty big one in this part of the world as well. So yeah, it was a bit of a bonkers day. Most got done. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about what did and didn't get done involving Liverpool because they were
Yeah.
they were kind of central to a lot of what was going on up here. But yeah, it was most both clubs, certainly Borough and Sunderland, were pretty pleased with what they ended up with.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, and obviously, so the activity was on and off the pitch, and yeah, the fixture schedules. I'm not sure whether it was a masterstroke or an absolute catastrophe putting that game on deadline day transfer night, but anyway, it was what it was. As you say, Liverpool were sort of intrinsically involved in both sections of that particular clash. We're going to discuss the reasons as to why as we go along now. We'll start off with Jayden Danns then, if we can. Obviously, joined Sunderland. It's since been confirmed, literally at time of recording, about an hour ago. Both clubs confirmed that loan deal had gone through. We expected it to, wasn't sort of ratified last night, maybe due to that fixture and obviously a lot of Sunderland staff being involved in that. In terms of the deal, we're going to talk about sort of the merits of it and the pros of it, if you like, in a moment. But from your understanding, has there been a long-standing interest? Was this sort of like the past, like, I don't know, 48 hours it became a thing, became a possibility? How's this deal kind of panned out?
No, Dan's was absolutely in Sunderland's thinking right from the start of the window. Really, it was a bit of an interesting one, or a bit of a tricky one, really, from Sunderland's perspective. A couple of months ago, Regis Labrise, who's if you ask him a straight question on transfers, he'll tend to give you a pretty straight answer. And we asked him about Premier League loanees, and he said, "Well, yeah, that's definitely a market we're looking to pursue." The problem they had, the thought they might have, is Isidore is clearly, or has clearly been the main man up front for him in the first half of the season. Eliza Mienda has developed well.
Mm.
So I think their kind of worry was, are Premier League clubs going to say, well, is our man going to play? And could Sunderland guarantee that football? Now, Danns was a player that they kind of identified as a potential target early in the window. The indications from here were that Liverpool were reluctant to do anything until after that PSV Eindhoven game that obviously Dan's played in.
Yeah.
But Sunderland were delighted to get that one done yesterday. Now, obviously, it's since emerged that this back problem was discovered in his medical on deadline day, which was discovered pretty late on. By which stage Sunderland, well, obviously it had been too late for them really to go back and start again in the search for
Yeah.
a striker. But Danns was the one they wanted, and I think it was quickly agreed really by all parties that the best port of call is for Danns to return to Liverpool, get treatment, hopefully get back to Sunderland as soon as, although there doesn't seem to be any indication at this stage as to how long it'll be. I mean, clearly, he played last week, so it can't be, he's been training, so it can't be a major issue. But I just hope for all concerned, it's quickly resolved, to quickly get the bottom of it, because I think, like Ben Doak, really, at Borough, which I'm sure we're going to talk about, I think it has the potential of benefiting all parties, really.
No, absolutely it does. Yeah, I was really keen for Jayden to go and get some proper first team football, ideally at championship level, and Sunderland feels like a really good fit. We'll talk about the options and what he's up against in a moment, but in terms of what Sunderland are doing this season, the makeup of the squad and the football and all that sort of stuff, ideally you don't want somebody who's young and still sort of inexperienced to go and battle relegation. It might stand them in good stead, but I'm not sure it's the ideal environment. Whereas a Sunderland side, playoffs and maybe even beyond on the horizon, that feels like a good fit. And I really like Jayden Danns. I watched a lot of him in the academy, and it felt as though because of the back injury, ironically, he had at the start of the season, he needed a kick start and a jump start on his campaign, his development again. And I kind of hoped Sunderland would be it. So I was bitterly disappointed to see that the first bit of news post signing was this layoff, as you say. But hopefully the time frame isn't too long for everyone's case, as you mentioned, and staved off interest is probably the right expression, but it's chosen Sunderland over Hull and Blackburn. Is that right?
Yeah, that seemed to be the indication. Again, the kind of suggestions at this end were that Liverpool left Jayden Danns to decide really. Now, I think if it was anything like Ben Doak, I remember talking to Ben Doak early in the season when obviously he'd come to Borough, and he said that he had the conversation, sat down, had the conversation with Arne Slot, and Slot kind of passed on his recommendations, but then left it to Doak to decide. I'd imagine the scenario was pretty similar here. But I can see why. I can see why he chose Sunderland. I mean, Hull, first of all, like you say there, are battling at the wrong end of the division. Sunderland are obviously competing at the top end. They've got a team packed full of young talent, of young players. And Danns will fit into that dressing room, and the likes of Chris Rigg, Joe Bellingham, Trey Hume, Eliza Mienda, Dennis Serkin, you could go on and on and on, have developed so quickly and impressively at Sunderland over the course of the last 6, 12, 18 months. It seems to be the perfect environment really for a young player to go on and flourish and improve.
No, absolutely. You touched on some of the options earlier on, what he might be coming up against in terms of that centre forward position, of course. Where do you how do you see him getting his best opportunities? Is it simply fighting for a place in that reckoning? Is it maybe options from out wide? Because we've seen him do that for Liverpool. He has played wide left. He has played even deeper in a more attacking midfield role recently under Arne Slot. Like, in terms of the system, in terms of the fit, in terms of what Sunderland have, when he is fit and ready to go, how sort of highly do you rate his chances of getting proper first team football?
That versatility you mentioned there is key, I think, because going back to what I was saying there about Isidore kind of being the nailed-on number 9, Isidore made his loan deal permanent over the weekend. So Sunderland fans love him. He's been great. He's had a really impressive first half of the season. Providing he's fit, he's going to keep playing up front. But Lebris said, what we need really is someone who's versatile, who can come in and play across the forward line. Now, Lebris is versatile. His favoured formation is a 4-3-3 with kind of 2 wide attackers. He plays a midfield 3 of Bellingham, Neal and Rigg, with then 2 attackers off the front man. But he's moved to 4-4-2 in games. He's tinkered in games. Lebris's management and in-game management especially has been hugely impressive. So if Danns can come in and tick a couple of boxes really, then that gives Sunderland what they want, but I think also will benefit him enormously because it means he can offer Lebris various different options in the second half of the season.
That's interesting.
And the other thing is they have had injuries, so Romain Mundle and Tommy Watson on the left have both been injured. Patrick Roberts and Eliza Mienda on the right. Well, Roberts is probably his kind of go-to starter, but hasn't set the world alight this season. And then there's kind of, if he plays like a 4-3-3 but in a more advanced, then there's more of a number 10, so Danns could fit in there. So there's plenty of options. There's plenty of options for him. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by it for lots of reasons. Like I say again, I really like the footballer, really like the lad as well. He's a good kid for what it's worth. But yeah, hopefully he can get himself fit as soon as possible and play a part in it, because it feels like he could play a part in something special as well. We all seen Sunderland slide high. We all know what Sunderland's like as a football club. Like, if he can, have any sort of tangible impact towards the back end, the business end of the season on promotion, then that sets him up in a, his cult hero status of Sunderland up at the Stadium Light first and foremost. But also what it means to Liverpool is you get a confident, a few goals, a few senior appearances under his belt version of Jayden Danns. And there is high hopes around Liverpool for Jayden, because we've seen it in glimpses and flashes against Southampton last season, the FA Cup, Accrington earlier on this year. He's got something. I spoke to John Aldridge about him last week, actually. And basically the general message and the sort of the sense I got was he's just got that striker's instinct. You can just tell he knows where to be, right place, right time, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, fingers crossed, like I say, he can get ready to go sooner rather than later.